What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Black Nerd Fridays. You already know who I am. It's your host, Mr. Refine. You already know how it goes. Got my other co-host with me. He got a little bit of technical difficulties right now. He's fixing up his camera and stuff like that. And our third co-host is she got some things going on too, but I know she's here in spirit as well. So shout out to Suds and Neal will be on in just a second. But anyways, today we are talking about Akira, the effects of limitless power. That's what this title and conversation is going to be about. And this joint is definitely a very deep movie, something that I refer to and relate to as a classic. That's just if you like anime, if you like all of that good stuff in that post-apocalyptic sort of environment, just good anime overall. This is the movie to watch. This is one of the things you definitely have to check out. So we're gonna talk about this today, and we're gonna get into it for sure. Yo, he back. He's back. What up? What up?
Got the camera working. I'm
You
ready.
got it. Got it. It ain't as blurry looking right now, so that's good. That's real good. So how you doing today?
Oh man, I'm good, man. I ain't got no beer with me today. You know, I gotta go to work.
It's
But what
all
up,
good.
world? Yeah, I mean, yeah,
It's all good. You know how that goes, man. That's life. Ain't nothing new with that. I
that's a
actually got
fact.
something, but I don't think I'm gonna crack it myself because I'm gonna be eating in a little bit and then I'll drink after that. So I'm not gonna really drink nothing right
It's
now.
all good, man.
But I
Hey,
do got some
that's a
stuff.
new one. That's what first says to be like, see, y'all always talking mess about me, and I'm
Oh, I
y'all
got
got
something.
me.
I'm just not gonna crack it. It's here, but I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it alone.
I
So,
respect it,
like I said, we're talking about Akira today,
man.
and this is man definitely classic. So, without further ado, we're gonna talk about what we always talk about. What is your good, your bad, and your ugly of
Man,
this?
I, it's really, man. I probably only got like one bad. I don't really have an ugly. And I think definitely starting off good as we usually do.
Yeah.
My good, man, it's not just the it's just how it hits so many different aspects of our society today. This chase for what we call God or the universe or however it is, this power that we're constantly searching for. It really hits on to all those facets with Akira, on top of the fact that just that basic aspect of feel when you feel weak. And I think that that was portrayed in a way, at least for one of the main characters, Tetsuo, that I was like, it was like it clouded him and his judgment out of just the true friendship that Canada, if I pronounce his name correctly, had. But it also showed another of our species, our human side of Canada, and really like just being like one people that he cared about, or just wanting things to have a fair shake, and not being afraid to get down and dirty with it. Then it hit the points of the politicians or a government, or what a government is, and also, I mean, what a military is. It tied into that too. So like the colonel, for example, you might think his character is like rigid and makes no sense, but then it's like you didn't see what he see. You don't deal with the people he deal with. And like he was honorable in a sea of thieves. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like,
Mm.
or a den, or not even a sea of thieves, like a den of wolves, man. Like really, like he was, whether you agree with him or not, like he was straightforward about what he was and what he wanted to protect with Neo Tokyo. So I mean, that's just my good, man. All the way around. There's just so many facets of just the society and like what that does. And he said some quotes that I tried to write down, but they were so quick with the so with the subtitles, because he was just so straightforward. He was just talking to the doctor or the scientist at the time,
Yeah.
and excuse me, well, doctor, because it's still a scientist, but it can be a doctor. But yeah, man, it was just great all around, bro. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love it. I agree with you on that. My good would be the fact that this is one of the most classic anime films ever. Is very highly notable. The animation here is crazy to me. I really, really love the storyline, like the fact that they're talking about human society. You're talking about some things that are even current today, and I don't want to talk about too much because I have questions pertaining to that. But it just touches on an aspect that we as a people deal with, whether you're black, white, whatever. But in my opinion, it's more the people who are less fortunate than, and the things that you experience in life. One of the things that I remember that I can say the most that's good to me is the fact that you see some negativity in here, but there is a whole lot of beauty underlying through it all. And I'm gonna leave that alone because I believe I had a question on that later on. But it's just a lot going on. You had gore in here, just raw and uncut. You had a little bit of a nudity going on. It's a lot going on in this movie, and they're not afraid to show you. They just get right to it. There's no holds bar on whatever it is they're talking about, whatever it is they're doing, and there's no limitation to, as the title says, the effects of this limitless power and the things that people were seeking to achieve while trying to attain this quote unquote power that they sought. So I just loved it all around, man.
Facts.
So bad wise, I had no bad. I'm gonna tell you, actually, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. It was a little cheesy with some parts that were people were getting knocked off motorcycles and they pretty much getting right up and stuff like that. You know,
hey,
that
man,
part was a little cheesy.
That was that nice asphalt. That's that smoothly laid down. They can slide a little bit without cuts and bruises.
They was getting up with ease off that, man. They getting hit in the face, jumping right up. You know, the motorcycle going 60 miles an hour, people running head on with it and jumping on it. But it's, you know, it's animation, so I still enjoyed it. What's your bad or ugly?
Yeah, I don't have an ugly. I think my bad is kind of some of the times where I think people should have been killed. They didn't, you know, and it was really to just keep them along in the storyline. But on top of that, like especially how especially the women, you know, because I got held down such, you're not here. But like it was like one of the main characters, Kia, if I pronounce her name correctly, because KEI. Like I mean, definitely a soldier. I'm not sure in a relationship with her and Ryu, but I mean, they kind of made it seem like, it's like, yeah, Ryu, I got to see you. And then also with Kaori, if I got her name correctly, man, just how they did her was scandalous, man. You know what I mean? On both times. You know what I mean? So it was even though the focus wasn't a lot on those characters overall outside of Tetsuo and Canada, to be honest, because I mean most of the other characters, I'm surprised I even remember their name, but I just have to write it down so I can remember it. But yeah, all in all, I would have liked those characters if they were not going to progress the story, and especially like Key. I was like trying to understand her aspect of a character in the sense of like, oh, she's just kind of a conduit, you know, but that could have been something that the creator, writer, director wanted to showcase when it came to how he portrayed women. Because even Kyoko, the one of the main characters, who again I didn't even think, I just thought she was kind of like a foreseer oracle type of situation. She came, she was like, you know, hands down one of the baddest. You know what I mean? One of the baddest, not within herself. She had to do it through another woman, and I'm just kind of like, okay, cool, because it's like maybe that's just showing that unity or something like that, but I don't know, man. So that was my only bad, but I don't get no ugly.
My ugly, hold on, let me look at my notes, because I have rolling those on the tip of my tongue.
There we go. Writing down these notes out here.
I have to, because something like
trusty
this,
dusty notebook. Let's go.
Okay, so mine would be pretty much the normal thing that I was speaking of earlier. When you're talking about people, when you're pertaining to our society and the things that we will do, and I say we, I'm talking about all of us, the things that people do to achieve power is crazy, and it doesn't matter what the effects of who you're doing it to, who it affects around you, what the repercussions are of that and the after effects. Nobody cares. They'll do anything to do it, whether it's financial gain, whether it's some sort of search for immortality, all sorts of things. It was very, very ugly when it came to that. So I just thought that they revealed us as a people to be who we really are and what we really have going on in mind. This is 1988.
No.
Ain't much changed.
Oh no, it's 2019. 1988 is when
I'm saying this movie was made in 88, and facts. Not much has changed since then. So that shows you a lot, and it's a lot of it's still relevant today. So that said a lot to me. So we're gonna move off the good, the bad, and the ugly. And my first question is, what did that introduction scene, the bomb blast / explosion,
man, come on, man.
What did that mean to you? What did that say to you?
I mean, if you know anything about just the basis of what the United States did, dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima, or Hiroshima,
Mm-hmm.
like that just kind of is signified that. And even though again the anime movie was made in 1988, like the way that just off top, I was like, man, that's what I just thought off top. And then
Mm.
the introduction to that too. One thing I peeped, and I had to go back to it, and I was like, oh snap, because they kind of showed, as they showed the holes that were created in the earth from that explosion. It
Yes.
almost before you could actually see the holes in the explosion, you just saw the outline. It almost looked like a living thing that was beating, like almost like a heartbeat or some organs or something like that. And then it zoomed in, and if you pay close attention, or at least for me, I wouldn't say pay close attention. If you just look at it, to me, it looked like the like a you look like a human baby almost, in a sense, from that crater.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay, got it. Kind of like that whole darkness, like destruction, beginning in alpha omega type of thing. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. And it's just little
Yeah.
things like that, which when I mean, I watched Akira multiple times, but even when I watched it just before now, man, I was like, bro, there's so much stuff I missed. Like,
It's
it
a
was
lot.
facts, bro. It was definitely a lot of stuff I missed.
Yeah, definitely a lot. To me, I agree with you on the exact same thing. But mine was, as I'm always go back to, is that relationship to us as a society. Like, we don't care about what we do and who it affects, how many generations later, and the
Mm,
fallout and all that stuff, man. These people went through this and they rebuilt a city within 30 years.
mm,
And with that happening in this 30-year time frame, they still wasn't up to par with a lot of stuff. That caused a lot of different factions to be formed. You had little cults of people which prayed to Akira. You had the biker gangs joining because of this stuff, and a bunch of different things were happening because when you have people that are poor, what are they going to naturally do to get money? They're going to commit crimes and do things that you wouldn't normally expect people to do, as we call it, normal in this society. So that right there just was a foreshadowing of what was going to happen through this whole movie, and it related a lot to what we experience today. Just the dirty, the evilness, the search for power, the search for control, the need to always have your hand in somebody's pocket and tell them this is what you're going to do and what do I gain if I help you out. All of that stuff just it rained true to me when I watched that first scene. So I thought that was definitely a big impactful thing and a huge foreshadowing of what the movie was to come. Although again, I've seen this movie a couple times. It's been years since I watched it.
me
Like you
too.
said, you watch things again and you catch stuff that you missed, and there's still stuff that I need to go back and probably be like, oh shoot, now I understand what's going on with that. So
Hmm.
it was deep, man, definitely deep.
Definitely.
Okay, so what was that first dream slash flashback that Tetsuo had as a kid? What did that mean?
As far as when it first had it, I mean, that's a good question. Because it kind
Yeah.
of blended in with a lot of other things that Akira himself and the other kids went through, and then it got to him after he was having that quick speed up flash through of all those things that happened to him. I mean, happened to the children,
Hmm.
including Akira. And then when he got to him, I think it really was this. And I've seen it even in the movie, and you'll see it too if you haven't seen Akira. And watching that relationship between Tetsuo and Canada, and it was from his perspective, um, but it was his perspective that was again skewed because you could see it was always a distance
Hmm.
between Tetsuo and Canada, and yeah, Canada, and it was it was always a distance, even though it seemed like they just were like childhood friends and everything was close. It was never like they were side by side. It was never like they were shaking hands or hugging,
No,
anything like
there's
that.
my bad. I don't mean to interrupt. There's
So,
another one that he had that was very early on in the movie where it was like a school bus or something coming, and it dropped him off, and you seen like other kids coming off the bus, and he was like in a park. It just was a weird sort of
oh
dream.
yeah, yeah, and he kind of by
Yeah,
himself in the crash type of thing. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's. I'm glad you. Cause I was like, man, I skipped one, but I was like, what flashback did I miss?
Yeah.
But I think that just basically because I know I rambled on about the other one. That just to me just kind of showed that just feeling out of place, like being
Hmm.
being picked on, from not being secure with yourself. And I mean, I think as a lot of children, people becoming adults too, what they go through, and then
Right.
just that isolation, even though you're in a bus full of other human beings, or like you're in a neighborhood with a whole bunch of other human beings, but that you're still feeling lonely. I think that really what it boils down to for that one.
Mm. To me, I looked at it as though a kid who had shared experiences with other kids, and they didn't really show too many other ones. They just showed that bus situation, but I felt like that was a shared experience. But this trauma that they went through eventually caused them to be who they are as adults. But it's crazy because even though he had some people in his corner, because the majority of his friends that he had, whether it was Canada, which obviously we know that was supposed to be his right hand,
Mhm.
um, can't remember the other kid's name.
I can't even either, man.
Key and Kiora, and I can't remember all their
One
names.
dude's name started with a T, and I couldn't even remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember most of their names, but that the experience that he had with all of them, he had some sort of resentment and disdain, depending on who he was looking at and the lens and perspective that he had him in. But even though they all shared bad experiences as kids and had it rough, for some reason he stood out, amongst his own and felt some sort of way, and he carried that all the way up to an adult. So it was deep. And this is our perspective. We don't know what that really meant. It could have meant other things. Somebody might say, "Hey, it meant this or that." So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch it again and see what my view is after looking at it.
Yeah, I pay attention too, man. I think I'm remembering more what you're talking about. But it was just
Yeah.
it was so quick that I was just like, huh? I got it, but it was, but I was just like, let me watch that again because I remember now the conversation with the other kids.
Hmm.
Because it wasn't just Canada that he grew up with. Because remember, they only in high school, man. It's
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
I mean, but I think they drew them very well to show that they were only still kids, even though they
Yeah.
seem like adults when they in the streets on them biker.
And it's so funny though, that's what happens. When you grow up poor and stuff, you kind of forced to be adults very young.
Man,
So even though they were teens, probably 16, maybe I'm gonna say the latest, they definitely were forced to be in these situations because of what they went through as children.
right.
So that said a lot. Now, what I really wanted to know was, and to me, they never really answered the question: who were those children and why were they experimented on? Because you've seen them at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
but they never got into depth on who they were. You just knew like names and stuff like that. They didn't describe who they were. They didn't tell you why they shriveled up and looked the way they did, which they spoke briefly, but they didn't really talk about it. What was your opinion on it? What you think about that?
Man, from that flashback
Hmm.
where Canada got a chance to really see Akira's perspective,
Hmm.
and how he really didn't talk much at all. So it was
He said
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah, he said nothing. Even when that flashback, he said nothing. Matter of fact, he wasn't even the kid that he was. The kid that was being shown with the flashback was what's his damn name, man? I'm trying to. He jumped in there trying to save.
Tatsuhika or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
The kid that Tetsuo hit with the
Takashi or
yeah.
Takaki. All right,
That's
pronounce
the
the name.
kid that Tetsuo hit with the
Right,
motorcycle.
right, right. It was through him. It was through his vision, and then you see Akira, and it was like, oh, okay, because you always
Yeah.
thought that was Akira, but really that flashback was just setting them up to like it seems like their parents like dropped them off in some shape, way, or form. I don't know if it was for compensation. I don't know what it was. I don't know if the kids even had powers at that
Mm.
time. I think it was not even necessarily a thing about powers. I just think it was parents who were, back to your point, being impoverished, being poor, and they really kind of was just like, okay, let me give my kid up, because you never saw a flashback where the parents ever showed up again. It was
No.
like, so I was like, man, that's pretty crazy, and that's just the story. I think they all connected, and why they were um so close in that sense is because they literally were just left to be experimented on.
Yeah, that was crazy because you looked at that and you said you seen the flashback and they had the helmets on their head with chips. And it's be honest with you, reminded me of Logan, the
Yeah,
movie. And you see at the beginning of the movie where the guy is running away with the boy and they end up killing him, just like they did with the
yeah,
Mexican woman. It reminded me of that. But you got answers as to who the little girl was in Logan. You didn't get many answers to what was going on with these kids. And it showed that they had these abilities, but we don't know if they were naturally there and they were waiting to develop as they became teenagers, or they were getting taught how to maintain or control it. We don't know. We just know they were being experimented on in general. And for some odd reason, I guess Akira just was the most strong, or had these natural abilities that they were waiting to mature, and for some reason it got out of control. But they never answered that question, and I would love to find out, excuse me, what that meant and who these kids were.
Yeah, I definitely think Akira was probably the one that he was probably like literally didn't have, well, not didn't have any parents, but he just didn't know who
Hmm.
his parents were
Hmm.
as at all. And I don't know if he was actually since birth um dropped off at the lab, or some, or they just picked him up, because again, everybody else had some form of emotion. Akira did smile, somewhat of a
Briefly.
smile, yeah, briefly, in that flashback. But yeah, man, it would definitely be good to know.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, did you notice any change in Tetsuo before and after that experiment?
Yeah, I think the crazy thing about it is that it was not really a change. You just really got to see what he really felt, and who he really
Mm.
what his insecurities were, and what he wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
compared to Canada. And I don't even think it was the experimentation. They weren't even doing experimentation, because, like, at least from what I gathered,
Yeah.
when Takashi, or Takashi, that's how you pronounce his name, Takashi, when he got hit, well, he protected himself, so he didn't even get hit. But when his powers protected him from Tetsuo hitting him with a bike, it really woke up the dormant ability that Tetsuo had,
Mm-hmm.
which again, they were, when I because again, when I first watched it too, I thought they were doing experimentation, because I was really kind of in and out watching the movie so many times. But really, they literally were suppressing the natural ability that he had. The drugs that they were giving him was to
Mm.
suppress it, and they even mentioned that towards the end of the movie, when that famous scene where he turned into a blob of
Yes.
flesh and machinery and everything like that. That was from his abilities, this connection with the beginning power, the power of God, the power of the
Yeah.
universe, however you want to call it. It was being suppressed, man, and he just was having so many headaches and things of that nature. But nah, none of the things that he went through, like, you really got to just see his insecurity, man. Even up to the end, where he was still reaching out for Canada, Canada, even though he was like, I have this power and all this stuff like that. But at the end of the day, with all that power, it really just showed like Canada had no power, but he was still who he was 100%. And
Mm-hmm.
really, the real person that Tetsuo was a person that just wanted to just be treated, wanted to be felt like he was worthy, and not just a punching bag. And
Yeah.
then, but Canada never saw him that way. But because Canada had the best bike, and he could drive it better than anybody else, and just had confidence, which was really the key thing, that he just felt like he was inferior.
Mm. It's funny because I felt like Tetsuo always had anger issues, which we've seen that be displayed throughout the whole movie.
Mm.
But once he realized he had this special ability, he became different. He became more arrogant, more in his search for, as you said, to be deemed worthy. But at the same time, he forgot where he came from. And this is why
Exactly.
he ended up going to war and fighting pretty much his best friend, the person who went through everything with him.
Man.
And I was questioning, is it really that big for you to, prove yourself and say, okay, we grew up together. We had these shared experiences. You looked out for me from the first time I met you. And now I have the quote unquote upper hand. And this is how I'm going to treat you. Like, was it really that important? Like the way he was searching to fight anybody who he thought was better. They said, oh, Akira, you're going to end up like Akira. He's like, who is that? And they're like, oh, that's where you pretty much get your power from and all that. And he's the strongest. And you don't want to go against him. He's like, oh, no, I need to find him. I need to face this guy right here. So all of those things were suddenly in his frame of mind, suddenly his thought process of, this is what I want to do. These are the things I need to accomplish to be deemed as somebody of importance, when you already were important. That's why you had that circle of people around you that loved you, because when he got taken, when he had the accident, then they took him into the helicopter, they arrested all those kids. And the first thing they were asking, they asked it several times, was, where is Tetsuo? Have y'all seen him? Did he get handcuffed? Did he get brought in? Then when they left out of it, they're like, yeah, we got to go get him. He got to be in that lab. So how did you lose sight, as someone who had all these people who cared about you, lost sight in that because you got a taste of what you consider power, or being worthy. So I thought that was crazy as hell, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. We flying through these questions too, by
Yeah,
the
man.
way.
I'm just trying to keep it up. I'm gonna go back when we end at the end when we ended. I'm gonna go back to my ugly because now I think about it as I'm talking to you. I'm like, yeah, I think I do got an
You
ugly.
got one, okay.
But I'll
Here-
hold off till we come back.
Here's my favorite. Why is it that white men like to experiment and control all life?
Man,
When
but that's Japanese dude. they all
nah,
they all
nah.
Japanese, bro. Come on.
Look at the scientist dude looking like
Hey
Einstein.
man, Japanese man, and Neo Tokyo, bro. Come on
Look at the
now.
scientist dude, and then look at
Hey,
the colonel. The
hey,
colonel was supposed to be Japanese, but I didn't get
Colonel
that from him.
Japanese out here too, man. I'm just keeping,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna just leave it for the. I mean, for the colonizer and just be like that's the blame on them. I mean, we got to understand that if the history again, people be thinking Japan is passive. When you got two nuclear bombs that were dropped on you, you got a whole different perspective on life. But let's just keep it 100. China and Japan, they don't. It's not like oh we just don't like each other. It's like nah, Japan went over there and conquered and called them less than, and it's always been that back and forth. So Japan
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, come on, the rising sun, that ain't no joke. They got pride, and they always are. I mean, just like anybody else, I think is finding that when you feel like you're the civilization that's the best, you're gonna be pushing
Hmm.
with it. And I think for them, what they were looking for was just they were looking for a new power. They were not just a new power source, but a new way to control. And
Hmm.
that experimentation backfired. But one of the things and it's not really like this question. So if I'm starting to talk into another question, cut me off. One of the things, again, back to the colonel, and I respected the colonel, even though I disagreed with the way he approached certain things, or majority of it, is that he was like, it's just no honor. It's like we do all these things and we just sweep it on the rug like it never happened because it happened 30 years ago. But it was like it was because of our experimentation that happened, and now we're not only still doing it, we're not ending it. We're not moving on and trying to focus on Neo Tokyo. We're trying to focus again back to power because again, people got comfortable. The people at the top got comfortable, not the people at the bottom. Because
Yeah.
even the whole thing, which I'm glad that they showcased that, because at first, like the first 10 or 15 minutes, you had your biker gangs and you thought it was just kind of like a dystopia, but it really wasn't. The students, it was students again,
Hmm.
students that were rioting because of a tax reform policy that passed that caused more taxation. When people's like, I'm
I'm
barely,
barely making it.
come on, man, like I'm telling you, bro, like,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna
You
stop.
know
Go
what's
ahead, go ahead.
funny? My perspective was that, right? And I put myself in their shoes and I looked at it as though, okay, this is me experiencing these things that I feel like we normally experience on our everyday basis, whether it be work, whether it just be outside or doing this or doing that. That's in all forms of our life, unless we're just in our governance structure, right? That social structure right there. So when I watched that and I'm watching this colonel who again I respected him, but I didn't respect him until later on once I seen who he really was. You had a group of probably 8 men, which they considered the council. These 8 men were responsible for deciding these tax reforms, what experiments they're going to do next, what are we going to do to get more money, all this sort of stuff. And the audacity that you have just because you might have a little bit more money or whatever to think that you can do this to people who are what we consider less than or who are less fortunate. Why would you continue to do exactly the things that you do? Not to mention you're experimenting on children, literally. Like
Bro,
they
that
took
was rough.
children, whether their parents willingly gave them up or not. They're experimenting on kids. These scientists that were doing it did not have to agree to do it. Whether they got a gun held to their head or not, you can say, no, you're gonna have to kill me because my integrity and my honor as a man or woman is more important than experimenting on these kids for money or whatever they got in exchange for that. So I was questioning like, why is it that this is always the case? And that's why I said it relates to society today, because people would do anything to get what we consider power or wealth, and they'll sacrifice themselves at the level that you would consider somebody not to do. Like there's limitations of things that I would do before I say no, that's crossing the line. Some people don't care about that. They'll do anything for that dollar. And this was all prevalent to me, at least in my eyes. So I thought this was a very good question. And I'm looking at who controls a lot of stuff. You know, green controls the world, right? Everybody, if you got money, that's what makes the world move and do this and do that. That's the deciding factor. But I always look at it as though when it comes to certain things, you're talking about preserving one thing, you preserving that whiteness. And that's what I felt like when I was watching that.
That's a fact, man. I got my nephew up here.
No, y'all good. Y'all
He
good.
driving the big wheels. I'm trying to respond, but I'm like, all right, man, relax, bro.
All good. All right. So we already know the answer to this question, but do you
this?
believe Akira was ahead of his time and why?
What? Oh, hold on a second.
You got co-host in the background.
Yeah. He said, "Nah, Nana, this is how we roll."
Yeah.
Nah, I think with Akira, it wasn't that he was ahead of his time. I think it was more so that because it was the what children have, and I think what we lose as we get older over time, because we get so many people telling us what we can't do or why that doesn't make sense, or that's stupid, or your dream is just, or it's not big enough, or whatever the case may be. He was just, it was a pure of heart thing, because he was being experimented on at no it wasn't a fault of his own, but when he saw this power, when he reached the beginning, because a lot of people kept, the shows, the movie was constantly talking about this, even Kyoko, when she broke it down towards the end, getting close to the end, like the climax of the whole movie, is the aspect of like, we came from monkeys, before that we came out of the water, amoeba, genes, all these things like that, but what was beyond that? And it was like, that was that power was, and this child who literally reached this level of and towards the end of the movie, and we can probably talk about it a little later, because what that actually was doing, it was literally creation. It was like creation and destruction, but it was on such a, it seemed like such a big scale for the people in on the planet, but reality was that happens all the time. And so when Akira literally reached this transcendent level, it was like, because he was a child and his brain wasn't tied into, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna do A, B, and C. It was just like, oh, okay, this is what it is, and like, that's just what it is. Like, I'm gonna let it go and let it be. And you just never, you didn't see him, because again, they didn't even talk about if Akira actually transcended just out of his body completely and his body just evaporated, which it didn't, because they were taking small parts of his body to experiment on. It literally was him just being a kid and just having this power and not being tainted by the world.
For me, I looked at it as though it definitely was ahead of its time for a lot of reasons. And I'm always going to go back to saying it's prevalent. A lot of things are prevalent today, right now. Definitely. Okay. So when you just discussed him being in different parts, the cranial nerve, all these things being in glasses and stuff in jars, and they preserving it. What's the sister's name that they took? Henrietta something.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, whose
They
family just
took
got
her,
the
black woman.
yeah.
Took her cells, use them, and they're still being used today
Yep.
for a lot of different scientific purposes, right? That's what I thought of when I watched this movie.
I see what
So
you're saying.
when we go back to something that was made in 1988, right? It's supposed to be 2019, but it's made in 1988 is when this actual movie was filmed. It's a lot of things that are still prevalent right now, from the scientific purposes to the search for power, the greed that we have to control and do different things. And that just kept ringing true to me through the whole movie. And I'm asking myself, what is it that we are really searching for? And I don't, when I say we, I don't mean me and you, because we leave things be. What is it that we're searching for as humans? What is it that you're searching for?
Perfection, man. Perfection. And that's where you just, what you just mentioned. Yeah, what you just mentioned was our ancestor who cells keep us the human species alive through a lot of things today. And if we're tying that and how to tie that into Akira, like you just stated it, it was like, it was perfection, but it wasn't perfect. It was perfection just that was just created. There was no, you can try to do all the explanation you want to do. Akira just was so in tune with that power at none of his, it was given to him. It was a gift that was given to him that we can't explain, but we wanted that perfection. We wanted to be able to control and take that gift. That's what the powers that be in the movie wanted to do. And it's like what everybody else, control the land. That's why the word landlord was even you're given this land by the king. So now you are
Yeah.
the lord of the land, but you don't own it. I control it. And I
Yeah.
can, I can keep going down the rabbit hole, which I won't. But it was literally that sense of perfection. And like we're always chasing that no matter what it is. But one of my friends, man, shout out to anonymityfilms.com. Like he said it to me best. It was like your future self and your present self, they're never gonna meet.
Mm.
And your future self is always going to be looking at your present self as the past and what you used to be, while your present self is constantly looking at your future self and trying to get your future self to be what it is that your present self wants to be. And it's like,
That's deep.
yeah, man. It was when he said that to me, man, I was like, bro, that blew my mind, man, because it's a
Yeah.
fact. You're never going to please either way. Your future self not going to be happy with your past, and your present not going to be happy with not going to be happy until it meets the future self. And then the
Mm-hmm.
present is going to be mad at the past self, but it's the same thing because I'm thinking present versus future. So it's
Yeah.
just, it was crazy, man. And I think that's what that chase was, perfection, and not just weapons, but just to have this control of like, look what I've done. I've
Mm-hmm.
created it. It's me, me, me. And that's a social structure mindset. You've never done anything on your own, no matter how much you think you did. There was somebody who
That
did it. And
that's the question I was asking
oh,
before,
go ahead.
and yeah, and we got to it. I used that frame reference of white men, but we talking social structure, so
I got you.
that's exactly what I was getting to. You already know, Dr. Carr speaking through us.
That's
So
right, man. Shout out Dr. Carr, man. In class with Carr,
every
Nubia
Saturday,
narrative. Yeah, come on, man. Every
you
Saturday,
already know
9
how it
a.m.
is.
Pacific Standard
So
Time, man.
that was that. Now, this is one of my favorite questions. Just my opinion right here. Did you notice any beauty through this dark movie? And that's everything's
I got
perspective.
you. Yeah, I mean,
That's all,
I think it was a lot. It was just beauty as far as just the human condition, the
Mhm.
good, bad, and the ugly. Because Canada, regardless of how, even though he was a biker gang, excuse me, my mic was tripping. Even though he was in a biker gang and he was beating on people, but it was like he still had a loyalty, that a lot of us. It was not even just a loyalty; it was a respect. Like Tetsuo didn't think that it was respect because he just felt lesser than because it wasn't as strong, wasn't as big, so he didn't think he was respected by Canada, but Canada respected him truly as a person. And I think that was one of the things that was beautiful. I think the other thing that was beautiful is that, and that's a part of my, it's kind of part of tying into my ugly, but the way these kids, they already knew not only what the outcome was,
Mhm.
they already seen it firsthand. But one of the things that when the doctor, this doctor scientist, so doctor, whatever his name is, because they just kept calling him doctor, shout out to the colonel for not knowing people's names, just knowing them by their rank.
Yeah.
When he said it's a universe being created, I was like, wow. Because again, we're
And
so
you talking about at the end when
talking
they
about at the end that universe
yeah,
being
yeah.
created, everything went dark, and then it just started to light up. Because again, somebody said this too, and I don't know if it was Dr. Carr when he was in class with Carr, but this whole thing of darkness and like how we're afraid of it, or how we've been taught to be feared of. I can think about all the Freddy Krueger movies of like being asleep and like somebody comes when you close your eyes, you don't know if you're gonna wake up. These
Mhm.
things where monsters and things are lurking in the night. And reality is like, man, your eyes was closed for 9-10 months while you were forming, while you were being created in the womb of your mother, and then you open your eyes. And then when
Mm.
you die, you close your eyes too. You know what I mean? Or some, I
Yeah.
mean, it just was. I think that was the human condition was beautiful, but this whole aspect of chasing power, and then when you actually see what it is, and those, I think that was another key thing that was beautiful too. The children knew what the power was. They didn't have quote unquote the control even with the power because they had these adults who had their guns and had their technology and all that. And it wasn't that they were all negative, because the children didn't hate their parents for dropping them off, or at least we don't know. They didn't
Mhm.
hate the colonel, they didn't hate the doctor, and I mean, definitely a lot of hatred could be had with that, especially being experimented on. But it was just like, we know the truth because like we built this bond with Akira. We built this relationship with him, and we saw it, and he kept us alive because
Right.
he could have, by creating a universe and then collapsing it on himself and just having it disappear, he could have killed everybody, but he didn't kill him.
Facts.
So it was that again, man. The human condition is a beautiful thing, and then that chase for, like, you know, it's like a Star Trek thing, like trying to go to the unknown of the unknown. And it's like a lot of times, man, if you just look at yourself, man, the unknown is right there. You just gotta keep that journey in the human condition and make it better. You know what I mean?
I like that. I really like that.
Dropping these jewels today, man.
Yeah, today
Print
we
that up.
definitely dropping them, and this is the perfect movie to have this conversation on. Now, you know what beauty I've seen out of there. So you're talking about it's considered, you know, dystopian, post-apocalyptic sort of future, all that stuff. They're falling into this, you know, creek sewer looking area, and they throw up, they fall in there. You're throwing up, the water is nasty. It's probably sewage they in,
Man.
but through all of that, right? They showed Akira the first time they showed, which we're perceiving as a boy. That's what we're perceiving. But in my opinion, it was kind of a androgynous sort of being because they made it look, you know, kind of angelic. It was like, oh my God, this is God or this is an angel. When once the kids seen him, they was like, oh my God, and they were on their knees acting as if they were kind of praying or calling out to him or it, right? That right there was beautiful. But most importantly, 3 kids were willing to sacrifice themselves, and they knew their potential. They said, as they were going away into this new universe that was being created, they said, we know what we're going to be. We're going to get there. And they kind of just left it at that. Now they sacrificed themselves to save.
Canada.
Yes, that right there was beautiful. I'm gonna say they were no older than 6, 7 years old. That's what I'm gonna say. Might be 8, you know what I mean? But I'm saying no.
Nah, man, 30 years, man. You know they powers, man, slow their growth down, man. That was 30 years. I mean, it was probably more than that because Akira blew up 30 years from that time. So you know what I mean? They just was old souls that couldn't, and maybe that was the thing that Akira tried to save them. And keep them in their small bodies so that their powers didn't over exacerbate it. But yeah, agree. I mean,
that's a good way to look at that too. I looked at them purely as just children, but the fact that they were willing to sacrifice themselves to save somebody else was beautiful. And that was at the time that Tetsuo was at his peak. He was about to take everything out. The whole city was going with him. Sure,
he was going to consume it all. And again, Takashi is the one that sacrificed because he was like, it's no fault of Canada. Canada didn't do anything. He didn't hurt us. He didn't hurt me. He didn't hurt anything. He just is attempting to save a friend. Just like we're attempting to not wake our friend up because we know what could happen. And then the other 2 kids jumped in and it wasn't even they sacrificed because they said it too. They were like, we don't have enough power to get out. And so it's not necessarily that they say you're going to be trapped. Like you said, they're going to be trapped. But is it being trapped? They don't know. I mean, excuse me, they know because they've seen it. So I don't know if they've seen it and then Akira kicked them out to save them or if they just were afraid and Akira just didn't even bring them to that world. But to your point, like they're in a whole new universe, or what we thought was when it collapsed, or what we think collapsed. It could have just kept going. It may have just disappeared from this realm because it would have destroyed everything. Right? It was sucking everything in. So yeah, man, it was great. The great question, but there's a lot of beautiful things. Kids crazy.
All right. So why do we need to leave life and nature be?
Man. I like this question, man. This is good. I'll start with the nature first. Nature, especially looking at, and I know it was a lot of reports of like, oh, because people were locked away and there wasn't as much much carbon dioxide fumes from cars and all that stuff like that. Nature in just a couple of months or a year was doing better. And I remember actually watching on Vice. I think it was Vice, or excuse me, it was either Vice or Brian Gumbel's Real Sports with Brian Gumbel, where they showed a scientist, a doctor, because he had a PhD in science, but I forgot what country it was in, but it was just nasty as far as like the water and all those things, and they wanted to kill a lot of the birds because a lot of the birds were just shitting all over the place. and they wanted to get rid of it because they wanted to make it a quote unquote sanctuary and bring all these animals back.
Mm-hmm.
And the scientists being studying that region and looking at all the species that came to that region, the birds were essential from all the studies that he did. So he said, leave the birds alone. Let the
Mm.
birds come. The birds brought the organisms. They brought the bacteria. Not every bacteria is bad, but certain bacteria is, again, is if it's not part of our body or around our body on a daily basis, is going to be seen as an invader. Um, but those organisms, those bacterias, they started to feed certain animals that typically are in that region, or new animals that woke up. So then you get the greenery and the water starts to refresh itself and all these things, and all of that because you just left the birds alone.
Mm.
The bird shit was feeding some other organism that fed another organism that fed another organism. We call it Mother Nature, but this thing that we call a planet is perfect because everything has a use, no matter if we agree with it or not. We don't like
Right.
rats, we don't like roaches, we don't like a lot of ants, we don't like a lot of bees. But at the end of the day, bees keep us alive because they fertilize, pollinate all the for a lot of fruits that we eat. Roaches, I don't even know what the roaches their use is, but just like flies, people don't like flies, but hell, maggots consume trash, and I mean it can go
They
on
use
on and
maggots
on.
for surgery to clean
Okay,
up dead flesh and all sorts of
come
stuff.
on, man, let's talk about it. Like everything has a use, so that's perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it ties back into that aspect of we want to create perfect, and we don't just want to let perfect be, and that ties into my last point about life. Life is perfect. It's just the things that we do that make it what we don't like. Back again, that present self versus that future self. And
Mm-hmm.
then we take that and then we look at life and we're like, okay, we can make it better. And there's things that, yeah, we didn't want to be cold, and I don't know how the fire came about, but fire was there. We didn't, fire wasn't enough because now we're living in these big castles or houses or huts that weren't providing the, if you weren't close to the flame, then it wasn't giving you the heat. So now we created some different type of we got to use a different energy source. We got to transfer that energy source. So those things made it better and more convenient so we can thrive more. But I think what we lost of that is that life and nature, like they're one and the same.
Yes.
We don't live with it. We just try to say that we're better than it because we have this cognitive thinking and this consciousness and all this curiosity and things like that. But I was like, if you just watch the planet, man, it's the same thing. They just don't have their thinking process is not associated with, does this person like me? Am I going to make this much money? All these things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like a whale doesn't have to figure out where to live. A whale's in the water. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? Like a lion doesn't have to figure out where the lion has to live. It's land.
Right.
All these things that again, let's just be honest, and I'll stop talking. To be honest, man, we're the one of the weakest species um in general because we're susceptible. I mean, we can't, there's water that monkeys and lions and everybody drinks at the watering hole and on the continent known as Africa, that has bacteria that would kill us, but they can drink it, and they because they can adapt to it. It takes us a longer time to adapt because we're so away from living life in nature that we just I don't know, it's crazy, man.
It's
And then we tie it in and like, okay, let's go on vacation and look at this beautiful scenery and come right back to the concrete jungle and
yep.
get stressed out all over again, man. So we don't understand that connection of nature and life. And and I myself am, no holier than thou speech. I'm definitely in there with y'all as well. So
Yeah.
I think that this movie is trying to show you, like, man, damn, like, won't you focus on the things that'll really make things beautiful and cohesive? Is if you focus on one another and make one another better.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start off with this simple one. During COVID, was locked away for a couple months, as you stated. And first off, I have deer across from me. I see them every day. Like they're probably out there right now. I see them every day. But with that happened, and there were more sightings of different animals that you hadn't seen in a while. We started having bears coming around people and stuff because we weren't involved in doing things that keep them out of their natural habitat.
Mm.
Leave things be, leave stuff alone. Like there's certain improvements and things that we might need to function. As you said, we're a weak species,
Yeah.
but there's certain things and improvements that we can utilize to make our lives better, etc. But if that doesn't have to be at the detriment of harming nature, whether it be killing bees or chopping down uh, hectares and all these acres of rainforest, leave it alone. Don't touch it, leave it alone. And this movie to me was trying to show that in its purest form, that if you just let things be, and as you said, be one with nature and everything else, it'll all solve itself. The best times that I've had in my life is when I've been to tropical, beautiful places, or even just going camping. When I went
Facts, man.
to Turks and Caicos a couple years ago, me and my wife, I felt at peace the whole time. I didn't think about anything else. Minus, I think about my kids because I wasn't with them at that time. But other than that, I was in the moment. I just was enjoying everything around me. The smell of the air, the feel of the sand, the water, how that felt, everything about it, and the connection that I had to the people that were there, whether they were that I knew them or not. It was everything was just natural. It wasn't any forced habit or action. You did it because everybody was happy, and we
Yeah.
were happy because we weren't there worrying about, oh, I'm trying to floss or stun on this. We just were all having a good time. That right there is beautiful. And I think if we did that, you won't have to make movies like Akira. You won't have to do these things. And it's this is a rabbit hole we can go down, but I
Yeah.
figured that would be a perfect question to ask
And my
after
and my
watching
la-
a movie like
yeah,
that.
my last point on this is just think about it in Akira. Literally, the society around the politics, and I don't want to say politicians because they weren't all. Yeah, they were politicians. They were government officials.
Yep.
They were people that helped create the new Neo Tokyo. But
Hmm.
everything around them, you're taxing people like crazy. Your school system, I mean, we didn't even talk about that, but your school system is like just shit, like
Terrible.
completely. You got kids in trade school, but literally, like they just put an engine in front of there. The teachers are talking, and that school right next to them is like you warn with the faction of the school right next to you. Um, it's just like it's crazy, man. You took all of that and you were so focused on we're going to create this new power source so we can have control of it, and
Yep.
you let everything else fall by the wayside so you can try to get this power that literally destroyed your home. I mean, literally
Facts.
destroyed your home because like you're not prepared or ready for it in what's shape, way, or form, but you still want that power just so you can have it.
Mm, deep. I love it. We dropping gems on here. Now, this is the last and final question. Have you seen any movie like this one after this creation?
Man, I want to say I probably did. It's just that when I rewatch it now, I'm looking at how it didn't. It was just so quick, man. Like there were so many aspects. Like I said, the school system,
Yeah.
society, taxation without representation. It's like the people love to say that. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
things are being blasted at you, and it's like around. And the main focus is just those people. You know what I mean? Those people are the main focus
Yeah.
and the main characters are the main focus, but all around them, society and the world's going on. But because again, you're looking at it from an adult standpoint, a colonel or militaristic standpoint, but it's really not militaristic. He's pretty much saying the same thing. It's chaos in the streets. Is it's like sewage and all this stuff everywhere. He was like,
He
and
took
he even said
control.
it. He even said it. He was like, you built all this for 30 years and now you're just letting it crumble because you keep trying to do the same thing that destroyed you before. Why?
Mm, mm.
Why? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I just haven't there's a lot of shows that I think, and I mean, we could look at it from like Perfect Blue, the movie Perfect Blue, like all of these movies that at this time, a lot of the what Japanese creators, at least from what I see, and I
Yeah.
can't speak for them because I'm only speaking from what I get it, but it's like it connects all of the things that we feel, whether we agree with it or not, whether we think we different. There is someone in this movie from the most conservative person to the most liberal person, the progressive person, from the person who thinks there should be socialism, capitalism, cronyism, free market,
Communism,
communism. Thank you, free market,
so on and
all of
so
that.
forth.
Yeah, all of the militarism,
Yeah.
like a Star Trek is,
Yeah.
like it is all there, but it just keeps. But everybody keeps saying the same thing. That's what I said, man. For me, the Colonel, um, I've seen a lot of Colonels from like Akira in different movies,
Yeah.
but I believe again, you know me, man. I love a steadfast character because a lot of times it's not that that character's mind is not moving, saying, "Am I doing the right thing?" It's that I could change, but when I change, they're gonna jump on me and take advantage of it. And now nothing's gonna change. So I'm gonna drive it. I'm gonna drive this hammer down. I'm gonna take my sunbeam to the top of the mountain, and
I was waiting.
yeah, I know you know
I was
you know go
waiting.
take sunbeam. I'm gonna take that sunbeam to the top of the mountain,
I was waiting.
and whatever happens. But again, I think this movie, to answer your question, I think this movie there's been plenty of movies like it, hitting some aspect, but this one, because we're older and we've seen a lot of other shows and sit back, it was like, man, like you said, this was 1988 this movie was made, and there's movies in 1970 that we've seen, anime movies that hit it this way, but this was like more of like an updated animation with a Batman animated series type of feel with some Japanese anime mixed together type of look, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm just like, bro, this thing, there's nothing like it, because when you make something, you create a work of art, it is what it is. It's 101.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm gonna keep my answer real short. I've seen movies similar without knowing that they're similar, and one came into my head now. And there's certain things that I draw from there that I can say remind me of it. Book of Eli, that's one of my favorite movies. But this movie is definitely a 101. So no, I haven't seen too many like it, but it's a 101, and it's a lot that we can learn by watching this movie, and we can just watch it and be enjoying it entertainment wise as well. You don't have to take everything from it, but I took a lot from it. So that was the last of our questions. I know you got some things to do personally. I know I do as well.
Yeah, man, I appreciate
I'm not
it.
sure exactly what we jumping into in 2 weeks, because that's going to be a whole new month.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Is that my month now?
Yes,
yeah, man.
yes, it is. We'll chop it up and figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah, definitely, man. But I want to tell everybody, thank y'all. I know we switched up from every Friday, and we know life happens, but we want to do something that keep us consistent to where we can balance out what life brings to us. And I just appreciate y'all for the people who have watched. I know as we build, and there are people who I do talk to who do watch it, they may not hit the like button or anything of that nature on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that like subscribe, go to hit our link tree up, follow us on all social media platforms. But beyond just following us, it's like we want to have that interaction with you. We want to be able to come to events and really have a deep conversation about maybe a episode that you saw that we just forgot about because we did so many. But I really want to say thank y'all, and definitely got to get back to the comic books. For me, when my time come around, shout out TJ Sterling.
I was waiting.
Come on, man! Shout out Crescent City. Come on, Crescent City Monsters. They did the Vigilante. The Vigilantes combo, man. We got Joystick Angels. We still got to talk about, man.
We got to get back to Concrete Comics.
Concrete Comics. We got so many people, man. So for all y'all, man, shout out to Lost Children of Andromeda. Jason, what up, man? Jason, what up? Love that guy. That's a fact, man. I couldn't
say it any better. And I think I have an idea of what we can possibly do. If it's not next month, at least within my month, I have a very good idea of something we can do. I'm gonna drop it to you, text you when we get off here, what we can talk about. But we will see y'all again in 2 weeks, and we're really hoping we'll have our other co-hosts with us, because we miss
Sudz. What up? We love you, Sudz.
Definitely, we miss you and we love you. And we'll see y'all again on another Friday, as always, on Black Nerd Fridays.
And I'll bring a beer this time.
Yeah, facts.